Good morning, everybody, and we'd like to thank you for attending this press conference. We thought this was an important part of Hidalgo County's transparency. We'd like to disseminate as much information as we can to everybody that's here in this Mid-Valley area that got affected by the rain events that we had recently. Before we get started, I just want to take a moment to recognize just some of the elected officials that came to be with us today. From Hidalgo County Precinct 4, Mr. Joseph Palacios is here. Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. We have the Mayor of Weslaco, David Suarez, and we have two city commissioners from the city of Weslaco, Mr. Jerry Tafoya and J.P. Rodriguez. So again, thank you very much. The most significant thing that we've encountered here is obviously the rains and the amount of rainfall that we received. And obviously our drainage system was impacted tremendously. So I'd like to ask our Drainage District Director, Mr. Raul Cecin, to come up and give a quick overview of what we saw, amount of rainfalls, what the drainage system capacities are, and where we are at this moment. Mr. Cecin?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Commissioner. Good morning, everyone. We obviously have been dealing with a lot of water this past 2 days or 3 days. The first 2 days, we've received an excess of 15 inches or more combined. The hardest area that were hit were Weslaco area, North Weslaco, and then the McAllen Mission area. Our system has been flowing to full capacity after the first event, and then the second event hit on the western portion of the second day that hit the western part of the county. Obviously, that water all makes its way to this area as well. We've been managing that water, moving it very efficiently through our system. Contrary to what was being reported earlier during the event, all gates were open. They have been monitored throughout the event. They have remained open. Everything is free-flowing. We have been in constant contact with the IBWC regarding the floodway, regarding the diversion of waters to the Arroyo Colorado. This morning at 7 a.m. they started opening the gates to divert water from the floodway that runs northerly just east of FM 1015. That water is being diverted now to the Arroyo Colorado, some of it. So that should help a lot of the water surface elevation in the floodway itself, which will allow us to open some of the gates. Some of the gates are still open at the floodway for the drainage ditches that flow into it. We are pumping in some locations. We've seen a lot of water elevation drop in the whole system itself. And the floodway itself has dropped 3 feet over in the McAllen Mission area, which is tremendous for that area. As I mentioned, with the diversion, we should see a big improvement to the flow going north, which will continue to monitor the water surface elevations, which will allow us to open gates as well. Our internal system, it's moving very efficiently. Our Panchita structure, we've been monitoring that water surface elevation. We've been keeping it constant for the last 2 days. It's flowing full to capacity. We have seen some capacity increase in our major east lateral drain that services this eastern portion of the county. We still have positive flow through all our structures there, all our crossings, road crossings that we've noticed. Been monitoring that elevation, so everything is moving. It's just an abundant amount of water that came through. We saw a big difference in the last 24 hours of our system, water surface dropping, and will continue to drop. The western portion and center part of our county, where our internal drainage is, has dropped tremendously already. Obviously, the water moves to this area, through this area, and we're dealing with that right now. So it's a matter of time where we start seeing a little more positive flow in our system. So we have seen some impact on the eastern side, and we're working closely with the precinct, all precincts, to address any local flooding issues that the district can help. We'll continue to manage our main system to make sure it's running efficiently. But we'll also be offering assistance to the precincts to try to move water out of low-lying areas, or to try to move water over the levee if we cannot open any gates. So that's kind of just an overview of what we're doing. We feel the system has done its job as efficiently as possible. We haven't reported any issues with any of our structures, any issues with any of our weirs or anything like that. So that's held up very well.
If you don't mind just staying here
Yes, sir.
for just a second.
Yes, sir.
So part of the clarification of what we have, and there have been people that have said gates are open, gates are closed, and what is good and what is bad. We try to make sure that gravity does most of the work. So when we open gates, we're trying to get these channels to have water flow out, and the best way to do it is to open the gates and let the water flow. When you have the channel that you're dumping into that starts to rise and overflow, you have to raise those gates or close them so that the water doesn't divert back into the neighborhoods. So there's a system in place and there's protocol that we follow to try to minimize the damage that occurs in the neighborhoods. So when, sometimes people will say gates are open, sometimes they'll say they're closed. That's the primary focus of gates, is to try to make sure that the water is channeling for an escape route. So we're trying to get water out of our system. And right now, as we see the water start to recede and we see the levels going back down, we can open gates again and let that local water start diverting back into those channels to get the water out. But otherwise, if we had left the gates open, we would see more water traveling into our neighborhoods. We didn't need any of that. What we had enough rainfall in one day or 1.5 days that we had, or the amount of rainfall that we had in 1.5 days here is the amount of normal rainfall that we get an entire year. That's an important statistic. We got a tremendous amount of rain in a short amount of time. Hurricane Beulah had 19 inches of rain over a period of days. We had over 15 inches of rain just here locally in less than 24 hours. So we had a tremendous amount of rain and water in our system. So we'll have some questions, or we'll open it up for questions after we go through our agenda here today. So Mr. Sassine, thank you to you and the Drainage District for helping us out. We also know that some of these drains were starting to overflow. They just didn't have the capacity to maintain the amount of water that was coming into our system all so quickly. The other thing is that the water was flowing from the west to the east, so even though all the rain here locally in the Weslaco area, Mid-Valley area was here, it's at the end of the drain line essentially for Hidalgo County. When the rain started hitting in McAllen and Mission the following day, all of that water came down towards our area and overflowed our system again. So while our friends and neighbors to the west had a lot of water funneling out quickly, it all ended up over here on the east side of the county. So we got basically 2 days worth of heavy rainfall over here that's ending up in our drain systems, and that's why a lot of the capacities were reached very quickly. It's because they were already full, and then the water flowing from the west to the east added more volume, and the system was just not able to handle it. So right now that the waters are receding, we're starting to put pumps in locally at different areas strategically to try to get a lot of that water out. We also have some MOVAC units and portable pumps that are being brought in to help relieve some of the efforts of flood relief in our colonias. So that's where we're at right now with respect to the drainage. So thank you again, Mr. Sassine. Before we move on any further, I'd like to thank the city of Weslaco for opening up their facilities to us here at for the precinct. One of the things that happened in Precinct 1 is our offices received about a foot worth of flood waters in our office. So we had to mobilize, and we relocated our precinct offices here to the city. The city was generous enough to lend us one of their rooms. So we have had a temporary office here since the waters hit on Wednesday, because our offices were not accessible, and since then are no longer, we can no longer occupy those offices. We will probably be displaced from our office from anywhere from a month to 6 months, and it really just depends. The remainder of our administrative offices will be relocated to the Progreso CRC. Even they have access issues, but we're temporarily moving some of our admin, so we will have dual housing here for the next few months. I'd also like to thank all the first responders from the state that have come down. I know that we've seen San Antonio, Laredo reached out, Corpus Christi has reached out, and we have a lot of state people, and I'll let Mr. Chief Saldana give us more information. We've had a lot of people call up to volunteer. They've shown up here at the offices and asking how they can help. We really do appreciate that. Congressman Vicente Gonzalez and Congressman Filemon Vela have done an exceptional job of being available to us. They have also reached out to FEMA, asking them to please consider declaring this a federal disaster area. So we appreciate that. We also have our state representative, Mando Martinez, who reached out to Governor Abbott on our behalf, sending him a letter to please assist us with getting state resources, which he did do on Thursday. Also, State Senator Chuy Hinojosa and State Senator Eddie Lucio have also been available. Their offices have extended support and have reached out to the governor as well. So we'd like to thank all of those gentlemen and elected officials for working on behalf of our area. We also have a number of agencies that have provided humanitarian and relief support. We thank them for that, and obviously thank you to all the media for helping us disseminate all the information, including our Hidalgo County Public Information Office with Ms. Julia Sullivan and her staff as well. I'd like to ask Commissioner Joseph Palacios to please come up here and share a little bit of what he has. He has been, Precinct 4 has extended a tremendous amount of support. They've given us sandbags, they've given us equipment, their manpower. Commissioner himself was carrying people out of some of the neighborhoods that were flooded, and he asked to say a few words today. Commissioner?
Yeah, good morning. Thank you, Commissioner. First and foremost, after every rain event, you learn a lot. In this case, this is probably one of the most catastrophic events we've had in a short period of time. And Commissioner's done a great job, as well as we're also seeing to dictate exactly what had happened within a day and a half. We did receive catastrophic rains that impacted us completely. What was tougher was the fact that the eastern part of the county got hit first, and then the west got it the following day. We've been affected on the west side, no different as well. There are some areas, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. We see our systems, obviously, a lot of the waters that fell on the west side, that's moving towards the east right now. It's starting to recede. We're seeing the tail end of a lot of that right now, which we're being very optimistic that pretty soon we'll see a lot of these systems that have crested in the east, on the eastern part of the county, start to recede. Again, we have built a lot of drainage infrastructure all throughout the county. The system is working. The problem, it was just a lot of water in such a short period of time. We realized that the floodwaters impacted, it impacted everybody from commercial, industrial, residential, colonias. Everybody was affected by the rains. Now, before, as we had thousands affected, and now some of them are out of the scenario. Our job today is to continue to figure out how we assist all the other precincts to assure that we have a full outright recovery, and that those that are still affected, that we continue to mitigate these floodwaters to assure that we bring them out of the water and assure that we can restore their normal life as best as we can, so that we can start rebuilding again. Again, we're committed, as well as I see Precinct 2 here and all of Hidalgo County, is we moved all of our resources where the greatest need is, and that's here at Precinct 1. We're going to continue working with the Commissioner and all of his staff to be of an assistance as we continue to help them and all the residents in this area as we go forward. Thank you.
The first couple of days, we were doing rescue efforts well towards the midnight hours. We had staff, county staff available 24 hours a day. The city of Weslaco was running their facilities 24 hours a day. So I'd like to thank my staff and Commissioner, because they were out here until midnight helping us try to get people evacuated from dangerous situations. So again, Commissioner, thank you to the judge's office for the support that they've given us. And obviously Precinct 3 and Precinct 2 had issues as well. They supported us as much as they could, and then we reciprocated that effort when the rain started falling over in the west. So we're all in this together. We're working together to try to make sure that we get everything done correctly and as a county. To my knowledge, we've had over 850 people that have been rescued over the last few days, and we had over 500 people in 9 different shelters throughout the county. We'd like to thank the Food Bank of the Rio Grande Valley, Red Cross, Salvation Army, Catholic Charities, United Way, HEB, and local and state responders for assisting us during this event. The first step of this process was to declare a state of emergency and disaster here in Hidalgo County, which we did do earlier this week, and then subsequently the Governor Abbott, also declared this area, Cameron County, Willacy County, and Hidalgo County, a disaster area, which opens up state relief. At this point in time, we're waiting for FEMA and the state and the federal government to declare us a disaster area as well. We need to hit certain thresholds in order for that to happen. So FEMA cannot be here until we get that declaration. So we're hopeful and expecting for that to happen any time now. between now and sometime in the next few days. And we're hopeful that the president and his departments will get that done. We have to anticipate that that's going to happen, so we're planning for that. And as soon as we know that that is going to happen with FEMA, we will pass that information along through the county Facebook page, the county website. All of the precincts will have links to assist our constituents in getting that information out to them. So we encourage people to continue to go to our website and make sure that they're well informed about what's happening. It has been estimated by the National Weather Service that the damage valley-wide is going to exceed $100 million. We've received over 18 inches of rain in our neighboring county over there in Cameron County, and it's been documented that we received over 15 inches of rain here in the Mid-Valley, and also the following day we received over 15 inches, actually over 16 inches over in McAllen and Mission. We're asking residents to please make sure to take pictures, photos, videos, and notes of the damage that they are experiencing there in their homes. Make sure that you have any pictures that you have from before to show the damage before and after. That will be very important as you make claims. Keep receipts of everything that you incur personally for recovery. Some of these expenses may be reimbursable to you later, but it's very hard to prove that without the receipts, so please make sure to do that. At this point in time, I'd also like to call Chief Lopez with the City of Weslaco. The City of Weslaco, as you know, has housed us here, the precinct offices, but they also had an EOC here, and they have so many resources as far as disaster and recovery, and they have, because we're so close in proximity, it has been very easy for us as a county to work with their resources and recovery and state resources. So Chief Lopez, if you could please give us a status update on where we stand here locally and also statewide.
Thank you, Commissioner. Antonio Lopez, Weslaco Fire Department, Fire Chief and Emergency Manager for the City of Weslaco. Also representing our mayor out of the mayor's office of emergency management. To give a quick report, on Wednesday we started receiving calls around 4 in the morning of the rain that started here hitting us in Weslaco. We're very aware of the situation as history has shown, and we learned from those histories to be prepared for these types of events. So we mustered up all our resources at 4 in the morning and started our operations center around 4:30 in the morning, and have been active since then 24/7. We mobilized our water pumps as part of our plan, our protocol. We do have designated sites within the city. So a lot of concerns have been coming in about people wanting to know about the neighborhoods and how the city is draining the water. The City of Weslaco has 3 different, you can cut the geographical areas within the city, and they all are draining in 3 different directions. So strategically placed all those pumps that we have, at the most we had about 8 industrial-sized pumps moving water, and those started operations on Wednesday morning at 9 o'clock. Those operations are still going today. They have not stopped. We're pumping 24 hours a day on those operations. It was just the fact that the amount of water that we received is kind of unheard of, and how they mentioned before, hurricanes have come and hit the valley, and we haven't gotten that type of rain. And this was just a wave that came through that lasted about 4 or 5 hours and was able to give the City of Weslaco about 13, 14 inches of rain. So any city, if you were to go to city, Houston, Austin, San Antonio, Los Angeles, anybody that receives that type of rain due to their systems is going to be impacted the same way we are seeing conditions here. So I'm going to give you a quick report on what we're doing out of our Weslaco EOC. We are managing all rescue operations, water dewatering operations, shelter operations for Weslaco, and we're assisting also the City of Merced and Donna with resources as we have available. So we, Chief Saldana from the county has helped and secured a lot of the resources that we have here on site at Weslaco City Hall. We're using this as a mid-valley staging point. We do have state assets that have been assigned to us, a state National Guard, state Medical Guard, have come in with high profile vehicles that they're in completely operations right now. Right now in the City of Weslaco, we have 8 assigned to us. All 8 are in the field right now doing operations. We also had a EMTF, Emergency Medical Task Force for the state of Texas, assign us a 5 ambulance strike team and an ambulance. The ambulance is located out of Weslaco Fire Department. was activated by the state to make sure that we had medical operations for the Mid-Valley and actually the Rio Grande Valley after the second day and third day of medical support. So we were managing that through Wesco EOC as well. And we did have runs where we did have to use those ambulances. Local resources are used, and we have to keep them ready to go. And this for, and I can speak, Commissioner, for every city, that when the resources come from outside, we're going to use them to the best of our ability, and we're going to use them as long as we can. Because all the resources that are within the cities have to still answer the citizens' local 911 needs, fire department needs, public works needs. So the city and the county must continue to operate for the citizens. So when those resources come in, we're going to put them to work. Some of the resources that we did get in San Antonio Fire Department under TIFMAS, which is a state mutual aid, did send us a strike team of 5 fire trucks from San Antonio Fire Department. These firefighters are all paramedics, and they're all also highly technical rescue trained in water and any other condition that might happen. So we're putting them to work in as well, and they're helping us with disaster assessment within the city, and also shared assets with Chief Saldana, doing some asset or some damage assessment in the county as well. So a quick report just to give everybody the impact that we're seeing and communicating that to our mayor is the impact that has done to the city of Weslaco. Under our assessments that we did the second day after the rain stopped, life safety was our main concern. We were doing rescues nonstop for about 36 hours. And we had to date, 5 minutes ago, got the report, our EOC out of Weslaco Fire Department with all the agencies that were assigned to the city of Weslaco. We have over 1,000 calls for rescue and evacuation. 1,000 calls. October 24, 2015, we had 130 active water rescues, 250 assisted evacuations. This operation, we have in 2.5, 3 days, over 1,000 calls. And the calls are continuing. So we're doing all our best to organize, coordinate, and being able to put the best qualified people and the best help that we have, volunteers, anything that's coming in to support us, into those calls and making sure that we get to everybody. On our assessment, just to give you a grand scale of how things are, also, our code enforcement, along with other code enforcement officials, inspectors from around the valley have come in to support the city of Weslaco to do a disaster assessment. And what we call a windshield assessment is just the preliminary. This is just preliminary of actually assessing from a vehicle how many residences were impacted. City of Weslaco, they have reported to us that 1,944 homes had over 18 inches of water. That's huge. 97 to 100 commercial businesses were affected with 18 inches of water. This is something that's big, but this is something that, again, I want everybody to know that we're working through. This is something that the mayor and the commission had given us the goals and objectives for our tactics. And the tactics that we're coming out of emergency operations centers to make sure that we get the resources down and get the numbers to the state of Texas so we can show that the valley is in great need of support. And when I say the valley, because every city here stands together, it's not just one city, it's the Rio Grande Valley as a whole, to get those numbers to the state of Texas and hopefully the federal government to show that the need is here. So, Commissioner, those are some of the things that we're doing out of Wesco City Hall, the Wesco EOC. And again, in complete support, I know that Chief Saldana supports us 110%. We're on the phone with him 24 hours a day. Again, these type of scenarios, we cannot do it by ourselves as Wesco EOC. That's why we look to our burger partners, Hidalgo County OEM, Chief Saldana's office, and to the state to support us and all that. And again, they have come in 110% in support. Thank you.
The primary impact of the flooding occurred in Weslaco, and I thought it was important for us to use this platform to get that information out to the city of Weslaco. City of Mercedes was also impacted greatly. Everything that Chief Lopez was talking about with respect to county efforts is all coordinated through our Office of Emergency Management, and that's headed by Chief Saldana. So everything that we do goes through his office and is coordinated. He has a tremendous task of trying to consolidate all the information that all of our needs here in Hidalgo County and then disseminate it out to these strike forces that we have out there throughout our county. So Chief, if you could come up and give a quick update You're going to have to bear with him. He's been on the phone a lot. He's used up his voice quite a bit, so pay close attention.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Commissioner. Good morning. Ricardo Saldaña, Emergency Management Coordinator, Hidalgo County, County Judge's Office of Ramon Garcia. Since Wednesday, as Chief Lopez has mentioned, we've been working together with this flood event that impacted the eastern part of the county, then on Thursday on the western part of the county. We have had multiple assets come in from the state and local. Texas Task Force 1 water rescue teams, U.S. Border Patrol and Customs Border Protection, the Borstar teams, Texas Park and Wildlife boat teams, Department of Public Safety boat teams, Texas Military Forces, TxDOT, the San Antonio Fire Department, Kingsville Fire Department, Austin Fire Department, the EMTF, Texas Forest Service, Incident Management teams, the Rio Grande Valley Regional Response teams, water rescue teams, local first responders from throughout the valley, Mission, McAllen, Palmview, Elsa, Edcouch, Donna, Mercedes, all of those that went to work. Hidalgo County Sheriff's Office assisted in a lot of the rescues. Salvation Army, Food Bank, American Red Cross have been tremendously involved, as the Commissioner mentioned. All the local police departments that band together to support the other agencies within the affected agencies. Hidalgo County constables from all of the precincts. We have requested a public works strike team from the state to come assist these local agency communities that have been impacted. The Food Bank of the Rio Grande Valley is the volunteer coordinator for us. They will be working with the volunteer agencies that will be coming down to assist all those families that were affected in those flooded areas with mucking of their homes, removing those areas where the sheetrock that was damaged to start airing it out. So they'll be working with them. Damage assessment teams for the Hidalgo County have been out since yesterday throughout the county. We have a team on the west side and a team on the east side. We also have 2 drone teams flying the areas on the west and on the east side to get all our damage assessments. All of the communities that have filed disaster declarations are doing their own damage assessments. So that'll build up our numbers. The American Red Cross Damage Assessment Team will be coming in to assist the city of Mercedes with their assessments. One of the things that we need to meet is a 2.7 million threshold for Hidalgo County in damages. We've already exceeded that. Now, to meet the 35 million that the state of Texas needs, amongst all those counties that were declared by Governor Abbott, we should fulfill that need, and hopefully the President of the United States will sign a federal declaration for our area to start bringing in the federal assistance to the public here in Hidalgo County, all those counties that were impacted. One of the things that I want to touch bases on was some of the things that are being put on Facebook and the social media about FEMA and what they're saying. Directly from FEMA, here it comes. Take photos of damages before you begin your cleanup. Photos, videos, document all your damaged furniture, all of those items that were impacted by the weather event, flooding. Make sure you take serial numbers and models of all your appliances, TVs that were impacted. Keep receipts, like Commissioner Fuentes mentioned. If you have insurance, contact your insurance company. If you have flood insurance, contact your insurance company. Throw away any floating items that were floating in your house. Take them out of the house. Anything that was soaked with water, move them out. That becomes a health issue for the families. We're trying to get those families back into their homes and to normality in a timely manner. But it takes us to help them. Very important. We don't want any more health issues with those families if they don't clean out. It is very important. Document, keep track of your receipts, and be safe out there when removing those items. That's all I have at the present time. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief, and to all your staff who have been assisting us throughout this entire event. I'd also like to take a minute, one of the things that we see with these rainwaters is that it starts to change color from the time that it, fell and hit our grounds, and then it goes into our ground and it starts picking up some of the debris and other things that are in the ground. We need to make sure that our families stay safe, make sure you keep your children from playing in the water. We don't know what's in there. You don't know what's underneath. You definitely don't want to be out there without shoes on or some sort of protective covering over your feet. You don't need to be stepping on things that have some sort of disease or germs on them. So keep your family safe, keep children away from that water. It's not a pool, it's not clean water. So make sure you keep your children safe. But to expand on that, I'd like to ask Mr. Eddie Olivares, who is the Hidalgo County Health Department Director, and have him share a few of the safety things that families can do over these next few days.
Good morning, everyone. Eddie Olivares, I'm the Director of Hidalgo County Health and Human Services, and there's several areas I'd like to go over, and I'm going to follow through on talking about the safety issues that are paramount and important. With this high water situation we have, it's been very, very difficult. The water is contaminated. We have backflow sewer issues, we have backflow septic tank issues, we have oil and different items from vehicles, the coolants, the antifreeze, the oil, transmission fluid, all those things that have gotten mixed in with all the water. All that just creates a very difficult concoction of issues. One of the big concerns is, I'd like to echo what Commissioner Fuentes has said very clearly. This situation is very serious. The best thing to do, and I know it's very difficult, but if you can evacuate your home and go to a shelter, that's the safest thing to do. If the focus is trying to keep you from being exposed to anything beyond what needs to happen. In the event that you have to evacuate out of your home and you're walking through high water, please use shoes with laces. I know everyone uses flip-flops or chanclas, but those come off. You could step on something, get your foot cut, and then all of a sudden you have a major infection, you have some complications. If you're diabetic, that healing is going to take 3 or 4 times longer. Need to look at that. It's very important that we focus in on those issues. So it's going to take many days. We've gone from search and rescue, now we're getting ready to go to recovery mode, and the recovery is going to be many, many days. It's going to take a while. Move on to vector control or mosquitoes. I want to make this very clear to everybody. The mosquito problem is going to be severe. It's not going to go away in a day. It's not going to go away in a week. It's not going to go away in a month. It's going to take a lot of time to deal with the mosquitoes. We cannot spray the mosquitoes away, because what happens is that a lot of the mosquitoes also go indoors, look for places where we don't have access to fumigating. I want to explain something very quickly. What is the most efficient way to get rid of mosquitoes? One is remove the source of where they lay their eggs. Source remediation. Take where they lay their eggs away. I know we have flooding, a lot of efforts being put to pumping water out, great, but we could do a lot of things in our own community, in our own yards, clean your yards, maintain them, limit the amount of places where mosquitoes can lay their eggs. Very important. The next one is bite reduction. Please use repellent. Please use long sleeve or long pants once the mosquito activity gets more active to keep from being bitten. It's very, very important. If you can, there is larvicide. Matter of fact, the county abatement teams, the county district, water district teams, we're already larviciding. That's already taking place. We're going to continue to do that, where we put little briquettes into the standing water to kill larvae. That's taking place already, along with fumigation plans and fogging plans. That's taking place already. We're integrating a lot of our fumigation efforts with the city. In fact, I saw Chief Pedraza, the Director of Health for the city of Weslaco, and we were talking outside and integrating our efforts along with the Precinct 1 and our other vector control partners. We have a vector control task force coming up this coming week, where we integrate all the cities and the state to work together as one big team. That's taking place. The spraying is done at night. A lot of times people say, well, I didn't see you do it. Because if the wind is more than 10 miles an hour, we can't spray. Because it's just going to go in the air. It's not going to do anything. If it's more than 80% humidity, we can't spray. If it's raining, we can't spray. So that's why we spray very late at night or early in the morning, 3, 4 in the morning, when the wind is the most calm and when the mosquitoes are most active. So we want to be able to do as much as we can. But spraying is not as effective as everyone thinks. The most effective way is to eliminate the source of where they can breed. Zika is a problem in our county. Zika, dengue, and chikungunya. We have localized Zika, we have localized dengue, we have localized chikungunya. We've had localized West Nile in the past. There's 3 types of mosquitoes that carry disease in our county. That's the Aedes aegypti, Aedes albopictus, and the Culex mosquito. But there's 26 different types of mosquitoes in our country, in our county, excuse me. And the rest of the 23 are nuisance mosquitoes. They're the ones who just buzz around and cause problems. But the 3 that we're looking at are prevalent and endemic in our area. They're common. We encourage all women who are pregnant. We've been doing this for the last 2 years. All women who are pregnant, as recommended by the State Secretary of Health's office in Texas, be tested for Zika. Hidalgo County is one of the leading areas in the United States where we test pregnant women for Zika. We work closely with our medical community, our medical society, to make sure that's part of prenatal care. We continue to encourage people to understand that the Zika symptoms, you have a chest rash or rash in your body, it's like a heat rash, not the mosquito pricks, but a heat rash. If you have that, plus fever or conjunctivitis, redness of the eyes, go to the doctor and get tested for Zika. Very, very important. So we look at that. The other area that we need to talk about is that we will continue to work on the mosquito information. You'll see that. But be patient with us because this is going to take a long time. It's going to take a long time to deal with this because there's so many square miles of flooding, and we're going to have to deal with that. The other area that people are going to start dealing with is heat. Heat's going to be a big problem. All this humidity, all this evaporation is going to cause high levels of humidity with 95-degree temperatures that are coming up next week, 98-degree temperatures, plus the humidity and the evaporation. We're going to have a lot of heat exhaustion, and there's many, many people that are going to be working in the yards, working outside. Drink plenty of water, wear protective clothing, protective hat, drink more water, and drink more water. Because a lot of times the sports drinks are good for you, but if you have diabetes or high blood pressure, they actually hurt you more than they help you. So consult your physician. I'll pause here, and I thank everyone for giving us the input and time to work together. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Eddie. At this time, like he said, we're going to move into a recovery phase, and people are going to be asking for help and what we can do to actually help them out. I've asked Mr. Jaime Longoria, who works with the Hidalgo County CSA, to please come up here, say a few words about what resources will be available to our constituents as they go through the recovery phase of the rain event that we just experienced. Jaime?
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm Jaime Longoria with the Hidalgo County Community Service Agency. Our agency continues to receive referrals from emergency management personnel regarding families that have special circumstances that for whatever reason can't make it in a shelter. We have been responding and putting folks in other situations and getting them out of harm's way in that way. Recognizing that our agency is not a first responder agency, we've also been preparing and gathering our resources, talking to our funding agency in Austin regarding what resources we could gather to be able to address some of the needs in Hidalgo County. Our agency, the funding that we receive is earmarked for low-income families in Hidalgo County, and as we know, about 44% of our families in Hidalgo County are low-income families. For that reason, we've put together a proposal to Commissioner's Court. Commissioner's Court will meet in an emergency meeting on Tuesday to discuss various aspects of the emergency, together with the matrix that we'll be using to distribute assistance to families in the hardest hit areas of Hidalgo County. We'll be working with emergency management personnel to pinpoint those areas that were affected in the largest concentration of families. We will be moving our mobile unit into those communities and start to distribute assistance limited assistance, but nonetheless, it'll be assistance to families in those areas. The details of that particular assistance, the details of the populations will be released on Wednesday or actually on Tuesday after Commissioners Court at a news conference following Commissioners Court. We also, as an agency, have been in contact with the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs and have asked for a release of emergency funds that would also come our way. We have not heard one way or the other, but certainly we are asking our legislators to assist us in that request, given the scope and magnitude of the disaster and the number of families that were affected here in Hidalgo County. So the bottom line for our agency, I will reiterate what Commissioner Fuentes has said, is to document the damage to each of the households. Take your camera phone and take pictures and document that. That'll be one of the criteria that we use for the when we go to distribute the assistance. Secondly, we'll certainly need identifying documents, whether it be a driver's license, a birth certificate, a utility bill, something to that effect. And we will release more details on Tuesday. But I can't reiterate enough how important it is to ensure that we start the recovery process by getting rid of all of those items that were affected in the floodwater. When we responded to Hurricane Harvey, one of the things that we found most disturbing about the situation, it was 3 and 4 weeks after the event, where families were living in homes that was infested with mold. So it's so important to remove all of those materials and get those materials outside of the home. Certainly, I'm not a health expert, but I'll tell you that was a huge issue in Galveston with families that didn't recognize the dangers of living in a situation like that. So as we go forward, the assistance that we provide will hopefully go a little way towards assisting families in starting in that process of removing debris from their homes. So you'll hear more from our office on Tuesday following Commissioners Court. Thank you.
There are 3 locations in the Mid-Valley area where people can seek shelter if they need a place to stay. We have the Weslaco First Baptist Church. They have a little bit of capacity left. Donna Youth Recreational Center is available as well as Chacon Middle School in the city of Mercedes. We'd like to thank them for opening up their doors and for the Red Cross in assisting, providing food and necessary items for the people that have been displaced from their homes. At this point in time, one of the other things that is really critical for all of us is safety. So the sheriff unfortunately had a prior obligation, but he has sent Chief Oscar Montoya to say a few words on behalf of the Hidalgo County Sheriff's Office. Chief.
Good morning. I'm Oscar Montoya, Chief Investigator for the Hidalgo County Sheriff's Office. I'm here on behalf of Sheriff J.E. Ediguera. First of all, the unprecedented amount of rain and the unprecedented amount of cooperation that went into this and the quickness of the response from people from outside the area was a huge impact, or had a huge impact in getting us to where we're at today. Even though there's still people saying that they're suffering out there, we know it. I can tell you that nobody's sleeping that needs to be out on the road. Having said that, there are some things that need to be done so that the people that are out there can continue to do their work, and so that the people that are leaving their homes can feel safe. And that is, if you're out and about taking pictures, all you're doing is causing nervousness to the people who are not in their homes, who have whatever they own in there. You're not helping any, okay? When you're driving around cruising just to see if you can see what's going on, it doesn't help, all right? So we've got our units out there working, patrolling, extra patrolling. It takes a lot of effort to extra-patrol the colonias and the areas in our area out in the county that were affected, so that the people can feel safe that are staying there as well. We field a lot of 911 calls, people concerned about either reckless driving. If you can imagine, there's still people out there driving their big trucks, trying to get in the mud, stuff like that. Just causes more calls for us. That takes us away from patrolling the areas so that people can feel secure in their home. So we're asking you that if you don't need to be out there, don't go. It just causes more problems. Barricades, there's still people going through those barricades. And again, I know this gets explained every year. I'm going to say it again. And that is, you become a problem for us when you get stuck behind those barricades. There's a reason why they're there. They're not there so you can get down and move them and go through. They're there because there's a potential danger. And the danger is not only to you, but to the people who have to respond to go get you. So we're asking the people to help us, help the people feel secure in their homes by not going to places that they don't need to be. By all means, continue to call 911. We're fully functional. If you have an emergency, if it's not non-emergency, you want to make a call, the 383-8114 number, that also gets answered. We met with other agencies, even all through this emergency. I know in our case, we cleaned out our office. We had, I think, 15 teams of 6-man out assisting with the rescue, and we were just a small part of a huge group that was out there, and we were still functional. And I can say the same thing for the city police departments that we met with. Everybody is functional, but let us do our job. And the best way you can do that is to keep the streets clear, and we're talking about the flooded areas, okay? I think they've been put out quite well. Everybody knows if you see the water, just turn around, go the other way, okay? Again, thank you, Commissioner, for the leadership out here. Thank you for the County Judge's Office, Mr. Saldana, for your leadership. And Commissioner Palacios, who is also out there with us in the east side and in the center. Thank you all for letting us be a part of this.
Thank you, Chief. Before you sit down, anybody that was part of the panel today, Chief Eddie, Chief Saldana, if you guys could make your way up here, we're going to open it up for questions in just a second. I'll make a couple of quick announcements with respect to some of the other items that we have here. Church of Christ, which is located on 1220 South Bridge, has clothing and some other materials, items that they would like to distribute. So anybody that needs assistance with respect to clothing, possibly food, you can go to Church of Christ on 1220 South Bridge. They have opened up their facility to hand out necessary items at this time. We'd also like to encourage everybody to continue to monitor the situation by following the county Facebook and Twitter pages and/or their Facebook accounts. Make sure that you also look at the county website. We'll be disseminating a lot of important information and updates with respect to the disaster, the recovery, and everything else. We're still in hurricane season, so if we get another rain event, we're going to see flooding again. So make sure that you're prepared. Make sure that you take action quickly. Make sure that you have an emergency plan. If you have an evacuation need, make sure that you have those things at the forefront of your mind as we move forward. And then there are many people who did not encounter flooding in their homes, and they are back to life as usual. There are a lot of people that have some need. We will be accepting donations here at City Hall, here at Weslaco, on behalf of the city and the county. We both have locations for drop-off. If people are willing to volunteer, please contact our office. There are a lot of people that have some needs in this area, so any help and assistance that can be provided to them out of the generosity of others, we would greatly appreciate that. At this point in time, that would conclude at least the agenda that we had ready for today. Any of our panel is here to answer any questions that you might have for the next 5-10 minutes. I think all of us will be here available to you after the press conference has concluded to answer any questions that you may have individually. But at this time, if anybody has any questions for any of us, we will entertain those at this time. Yes, ma'am.
My name is LOPEZ, and I'm a resident of Weslaco, of course, and I reside on Las Brisas. I'm here today to find out where we stand as far as the water receding. As of this morning, based on some of our neighbors, the water still stands as it was yesterday. So we want to know what's going on there. What are we doing there to make this water go down so that some of us can return to our homes?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Weslaco Officer of Emergency Management, we are, I stated, since Wednesday at 9 o'clock, we started pumping operations. One of the sites that's identified as pump site number 1 for the city of Weslaco is the one that affects and dewaters the area that you live in, Las Brisas. Along with that 12-inch industrial pump that we have that pumps over 5,000 gallons per minute, there's also another 24-inch pump there as well. There's also another 12-inch pump alongside of that. Typical response for us is a 12-inch pump at each site. On Wednesday in the morning when we started deploying, we knew that that was not going to be the case. So again, we requested resources locally that we knew that were available to us fast. We've also had put reports in to the state of Texas. Again, those take anywhere from 48 to 72 hours to get those replies granted by the state and deployed, because those pumps may be coming from Dallas, Houston, those areas. But local resources, everybody has come together. Hidalgo County, all the precincts have also sent us pumps as well. So our efforts are 110, we're running 110% right now, and have been since Wednesday. And that's our main priority, is to dewater those areas. And history has shown that we have issues in those areas. We have done a mitigation planning for the last 2.5 years as I took over as emergency manager to clean those ditches and widen those ditches. Actually, the Brisas was one of the ones that actually went in there and did an expansion on the drainage system. But again, the amount of water that came down on Wednesday that impacted us was just so great that it's going to overwhelm any system. Even if the system was twice the size, we would still be in the same boat. But I can assure you that on our side, we are in 24 operations. The EOC will be open for 24 operations until we do not need to be in 24-hour operations. So our goal is to make sure that we relay the information and have contact with you and let you know that we are working and we are bringing resources from other places to help out.
If I may add, just Raul Sin, Drainage District General Manager. That area is a natural low area. We've been monitoring that area. We're moving water to the floodway, and it's, the chief was mentioning, we do have the pump set up to move water over. The gate structure is being monitored, water surface elevation, to try to open the gate and get more gravity flow through the system. That helps out tremendously. As I mentioned earlier, we are working with IBWC. The diversion gates that are being open will help that area reduce the water surface elevation, which should allow us to open that gate back up, but we'll still continue the pumping operations to move more water out of that area. It is a natural low. We've seen this in the past, and it does take a while to get the water out because of such a natural low. The water seeks its own level, and it'll seek the low level first, and then as we continue to move water, those are the areas that take a little bit longer to get the water out. So we're continuing the pumping operations, and will not stop until we get that water out.
One more point, ma'am. I want you to know that what we discussed last night, this was not able to be done until approximately this morning because of our conditions with the water. The mayor commission also sat down with myself and our city engineer, came out with a plan. In emergency management, we think of the worst case scenario. And also we have to think outside the box. So last night a plan was thought of that was outside the box. Let's try something that hasn't been tried before. Let's try something to put extra effort into those operations. So this morning at around 7 in the morning, the mayor, out through the Office of Emergency Management, ordered us to make sure that there's a position in one of the drainage ditches that flows that kind of winds off and goes to Las Brisas and pump site number 1, and also pump site number 2 that we have on the levee system. So this morning, we ordered through the Office of Emergency Management, one of those ditches be dammed. We actually had to close off one of those drainage ditches at a Y, and now any water that's coming from upstream will be rediverted to pump site number 2. This will give us an opportunity to pump Las Brisas not only from one site downstream, we're pumping upstream. So we're gonna try to get you twice as fast as now. But our conditions were not at that point. If we were to do that, there was not going to be any benefit to Las Brisas, and there was not going to be any benefit to anybody upstream, meaning all the rest of the city of Weslaco. Everything would have backed up. So this morning we were able to do that, and as of 11 o'clock this morning, got a report back to me at the EOC that operation has been successful, and we are moving lots of water upstream from you. So that's something that we're going to continue operating until we get the job done. So those are some of the things that we're thinking outside the box to make sure that we can make that happen.
So, guesstimating here, when do you guys foresee that some of us will be able to return to our homes, based on what the efforts that you're currently making?
I'll let the experts on the water movement. Do you have something? And then I can talk about the city.
Definitely. Typically, we see a big positive movement of our water 12 to 24 hours. As it was mentioned earlier, a lot of the water has been stacking. But with the new efforts that was just explained, that may expedite it. We're hopeful that we'll see something within the next 24 hours to start seeing that water recede. Splitting that flow like that is going to help expedite it, and so you don't have water stacking. Now you have two different ways of moving it. So with the, as I mentioned earlier, with the opening of the diversion flow and moving water through Arroyo Colorado, that should help get that water surface, open up the box, and be able to move water more efficiently. So we should estimate in 24 hours we should see something.
Yes, my name is Elizabeth, and I live on mile 5 in Southwest. This is the second time we get flooded and we get nobody to help out there. I had to chase down the county to get help. 2 days, since Wednesday, I've been trying to get a hold of the office, no call, no answer. I got a hold of the drainage system. They told me that they were not able to unlock, or we were not getting pumped out at all. Nobody was able to help us out yesterday. Well, yesterday they started early until I chased down some of the crew from the Hidalgo, because nobody goes out there. Every time that we get flooded, county never goes and helps out in that area. Second time, nobody goes and helps that area. I mean, we're willing, on 2015, we took matter ourselves. We opened the canal in order to get that water going out. And again, this year. Nobody helps, I mean.
Well, we have,
I spoke to people out there, the drainage people, they weren't, supposedly the canal back behind my house doesn't belong to Chris one, it doesn't belong to them either. So I want to know, who does that canal belong to?
irrigation district.
Okay, we can't get a hold of none of them.
We understand. The unfortunate part is that we all have limited resources as far as personnel and manpower. And a lot of our focus is trying to make sure that our drainage system is working and trying to get pumps set up. I mean, we have to take them out there and manually turn them on and put tubes and get flow going. And that takes a lot of manpower. And then we're also getting sandbags ready. We have people in our office trying to take phone calls. We were displaced from our office, so we had one office line number. That's all we had. That's all we could get. Our office was 1 foot in underwater, so we didn't.
I came Wednesday, I came Thursday, I came
Our-
Friday again. It took me till Friday afternoon to get county to go out there. There was no sheriff department, we never even had birthdays, blocking our streets and nothing. Our area is always forgettable, like
Right.
you guys do not look at that. I'm sure Tierra Santa doesn't got to that and get no for that at all.
It did, actually. It did.
You're again, like, it's ridiculous that we never get help out there. Anyway.
I'll make sure to meet with you right after this, and we'll address your needs, and I'll make sure that we address that. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Johnny Cepeda, Victor Neighborhood. Some of our neighbors have kind of thrown the idea around that we kind of get, like our neighborhood gets put to the side and, you know, it's kind of, you get everybody else's water go. And with the system that's in place, the flood system, is there a way to cut off that canal running parallel on mile 9, so, you know, to stop getting water to that canal that's gonna be fixed the ditches? We've been there 20 years, and, it happens every time. Whenever we get a flood, we're stuck in there for 3 days. So it seems that, I understand the city, there's, you know, 31 neighborhood, but are we getting sacrificed? And if we are, you know, I'm sure a lot of the neighbors would like to know that we, maybe we can try and sell or move away from the neighborhood.
Yes, sir. We've evaluated that area, and we're looking at options to improve some of those crossings. That ditch actually flows northerly and then easterly, and then comes back south to the mile 8 and 1.5. So we've looked at some of those crossings. We do have a plan in place to start widening some of that system and improving the actual flow into the floodway. This is an estimated about $3.5 million to do that whole work with the right-of-way acquisition, ditch work, and all that. The plan is in place. The study's in place. Let me rephrase that. The study is in place, and we're looking at resources to try to see how we can do that improvement. That could be one of our mitigation plans that we put forth before FEMA and the state if we're able to receive funds. But we are working to try to address that issue there.
We'll take one more question, and then you guys can ask individual questions if you'd like to. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, Diana Ruiz, I live in Illinois Street. My question is, now that the water is out, I mean, we're all separated, we want to go back to our homes, and I understand that it's a process. What do you guys recommend? I know we're supposed to be taking pictures, so we want to move back in. Can we start cleaning up? What's the process? Can we start cutting down? The thing with FEMA, we already tried applying online. Our center is still not in there. What can we do? We need to get back to our normal lives. We appreciate your help getting all that water out, but now we need to help ourselves. What can we do?
Well, first, I'd like to express our sadness on this whole event. Mother Nature did not deal us a good card, unfortunately, last few days. But as was stated earlier by Commissioner, stated by Chief Saldana, we actually, if you go to the county Facebook site, if you go to our Twitter site, there's actually a very clear indication from FEMA. There was some misinformation being put out that you should not clean up, that FEMA said you shouldn't. That was not the case. That was misinformation that was on there. We put an official site that actually talks about taking your photos, taking videos, taking information on serial numbers. We really encourage you to clean out as quickly as possible, especially those things that hold water, your mattresses, the carpet, those things. And I'm sure that the city and the county are going to work on how to properly put those out and how they're going to get picked up. I would appeal to them to explain how they're going to do that. But you really need to document all that very clearly. Also, I would recommend taking pictures of the receipts, anything you buy, because you lose your receipts or they get wet. Take pictures of them. Keep everything backed up. Email that data to yourself. That way, there's a digital copy in the cloud somewhere where you could extract that data if your phone gets wet, if you drop it. Yeah, at least you got some backup there. But as far as FEMA, we're waiting for the presidential declaration. It was indicated by Commissioner Fuentes and Commissioner Palacios and Chief Saldana that the federal threshold should not be difficult to meet. But again, we're at the hands of the federal government and waiting for that.
I just want to add, our experience at Hurricane Harvey, we were there after the event, so we got to see a lot of the cleanup processes. We've, at the Community Service Agency, are compiled information on how to muck and gut homes, okay, and that's what it's called. So if you were to YouTube it or Google that, muck and gutting a home, it actually shows you how to remove the sheetrock that's been wet, the carpet that's wet, and some of those materials. Also, I want to reiterate the importance of a couple of things. Is number one, be safe about what you're doing. Okay, we need to make sure electricity is turned off in the house while you're doing some of this work. You want to also make sure that you've got proper clothing, okay, that you're covered up. Mold is in our weather will start to grow very rapidly, so you've got to be careful that you're not inhaling the mold. So you've got to have protective gear on your face, protective gear with your eyes. You've got to wear protective clothing, long sleeve pants, and protective, of course, pants. The other important part of this is to make sure, as Eddie mentioned, is document all of this. Is take pictures of it. It's important, just as important, to get it out of the house almost immediately, okay? So if your home is theoretically dry and you're ready to move back in, as you're talking about, the important step is to remove all that debris. And there will be instructions coming. We're compiling some of that information from our experience in Hurricane Harvey to give out to the public, as well as information from the CDC about mold and how to remediate mold. There is a product we've visited with Lowe's and with Home Depot. There's something a little better than bleach that's available on the market. It's called Shockwave. There's a lot of different variations of that product, but that's a product that kills mold, and you can either pre-treat the lumber that's been wet, or you can, if you do see the mold, you can also spray it on to kill the mold. But that's very important that you get behind the walls and you identify those kinds of dangers, because those will present themselves months and weeks after the event is over. Folks will have, I'm not a health expert, but we saw a lot of breathing problems, a lot of families with problems with their vision, with a lot of runny nose and those kinds of things, all being presented because of the mold situation. Okay, so we can get you some of that information, and we'll make more available for the county website as we go forward. Okay.
I want to comment on that. Our goal is to get everybody home our goal is to get everybody back to their normal life, or get to the new normal as is gonna be known, because it's not gonna be the same that it was on Tuesday morning. So also for your cleanup efforts, the city of Weslaco has already implemented their debris management plan. So the commission and the mayor have already designated certain areas that we're gonna start moving. And then as the days go by, you're gonna see more and more of those locations pop up as we get resources. Again, remember that the whole valley has been impacted. So resources that are being requested by us, we can ask for 100 things, and so is the next city next to us and the next city next to that. So we have to be play as a team. We have to, and we're gonna fight for you to get those equipment here, and we do that every single day. So the debris plan has been in place, so you're gonna see roll-offs in your neighborhoods to help you facilitate the return back to your home. So if you are, and if you do not see those roll-offs in your neighborhood, start the process. Start how Chief said, Olivares said, start your process. Start your process, put your debris on the curb, not in the street, keep it on the property, outside around your fence area. That way we can have those crews start to go clean up. We cannot go, as a government, cannot go onto your property to remove debris. So if you can bring it outside to the right of way, we can start that process. We want you guys, everybody, to have the opportunity to get back in your home. So our debris management plan has been initiated, believe it or not, since Wednesday afternoon. We're waiting for everything. We're always having to think a couple days ahead of time. So you will start seeing that, and you can start on that process.
Thank you.
Yes.
Some of those cleaning supplies are available at that Church of Christ location on Bridge Street. They've said that they have some of those things to disseminate. I'd like to thank the panel up here. I know that we all kind of need to get back to work, but we'll stay around here to handle individual questions. I'd also like to thank Julia Sullivan from the Public Information Office for organizing this press conference, all the commissioners, the county judge. Thank you guys for your support and lending a hand. The Hidalgo County website, hidalgocounty.us. You can go on there, and we'll be continuing to post information up on the front page to give you easy access and quick access to any information that we get. We'll make sure we post it right away. At this time, I'd like to thank again the media for showing up and helping us disseminate this information to our area, and thank you all for attending. Thank you.